Have you ever wondered why society places so much emphasis on youth? We're told that our 20s and 30s are the pinnacle of life, the time for ambition, proving ourselves, and achieving success. But what if that's an illusion? What if, instead of being the peak, those years were just the warm-up? Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that life truly begins at 40. Everything before, just preparation. But why? What changes at midlife that makes it the true turning point? We live in a world obsessed with early success, the first job, the first love, the first big break. But in chasing these external milestones, we often overlook something crucial: the self. We follow a script written by others, society, family, culture. We pursue goals that may not even be ours, thinking they will bring fulfillment. But then, the applause fades, the promotions lose their thrill, and a quiet emptiness settles in. That's where Jung's insight becomes clear: the first 40 years are not the destination. They are just Act 1. Why is this belief so ingrained? Because from childhood, we're wired to seek approval, to fit in. This carries into adulthood, where we perfect a version of ourselves designed for acceptance. But this version, this persona, is just a mask. It helps us function, build relationships, achieve, but at some point, it stops fitting. The identity we spent decades constructing starts to feel like a cage rather than a home. This is the crossroads of midlife. The goals that once seemed so urgent now feel empty. The success we worked so hard for doesn't satisfy. It's as if an unseen force is pulling us towards something deeper. And this is where the real transformation begins. Jung saw midlife not as a crisis, but as an awakening, an invitation to turn inward, to ask, who am I beyond the expectations, beyond the achievements, beyond the mask? If the first 40 years were just research, then what comes next? That, my friend, is where the real journey begins. And you won't want to miss what's coming. From the moment we enter the world, we begin constructing an identity, necessarily for ourselves, but for others. We learn to adapt, to fit in, to become who we are expected to be. This adaptation forms what Carl Jung called the persona, a carefully curated mask, designed to help us navigate society. It is the version of ourselves that seeks approval, that performs for success, that aligns with expectations. But here's the problem: many people don't realize they are wearing a mask. They believe they are living authentically, unaware that their true self is hidden beneath layers of conditioning. Your persona is not inherently bad. In fact, it serves a vital function. It allows us to integrate into the world, to communicate, to build relationships. But when the persona becomes the sole identity, something critical happens. It disconnects us from our deeper, more authentic nature. We begin to measure our worth by external validation rather than inner truth. We chase careers that impress others, relationships that seem ideal on the surface, and goals that were never truly ours to begin with. The more we invest in the persona, the harder it becomes to recognize the self behind it. But what happens when the persona no longer fits? When the script we've been following suddenly feels empty? This is the turning point many face at midlife. What once felt like certainty now breeds doubt. The roles we played so well no longer bring fulfillment. It's as if the mask we spent decades perfecting begins to crack, revealing something underneath, something raw, something real. At first, this can feel disorienting, even frightening. After all, if you are not the mask, then who are you? Jung saw this moment as a necessary awakening, the point where we begin to see beyond the persona and glimpse our true essence. This is where self-inquiry begins, questioning the values we've held, the beliefs we've adopted, the identity we thought was permanent. It's a confrontation, a reckoning with everything we've ignored. Some resist this process, holding on to the persona with all their might. Others embrace it, allowing the false self to dissolve so the authentic self can emerge. And this is only the beginning, because beneath the persona lies something even more powerful: the shadow, The part of you that has been hidden, repressed, buried deep within. What happens when you finally face it? When you stop running from the parts of yourself you've been taught to fear. The real transformation begins there. And that is exactly what we will explore next. For decades, society has framed midlife as a crisis, a time of turmoil, regret, and impulsive decisions. But Carl Jung saw it differently. He believed that reaching this stage of life was not about crisis, but about awakening. A realization that the life we've built may not be a reflection of who we truly are. It is a moment of profound introspection, an invitation to step beyond the superficial goals of youth and into something far more meaningful. But why does this shift happen? Why do so many reach a point where the old definitions of success no longer satisfy? The brain itself undergoes changes in midlife, becoming more reflective and emotionally aware. Neurological studies show that as we age, we gain a heightened ability to see patterns in our own behavior, to reflect on our choices with deeper understanding. This is why so many experience a sense of restlessness, a feeling that despite all their accomplishments, something vital is missing. It is not a failure, it is an opportunity, a calling to realign life with one's true nature. The tension people feel in their 40s is not a sign of falling apart, but of shedding what no longer serves them. At this stage, people begin to re-evaluate their priorities. The external achievements, the job titles, financial success, social status lose their luster. What once seemed essential now feels empty. Many begin to crave something deeper: authenticity, purpose, connection. This is the moment when some radically change careers, leave long-term relationships, or embark on creative endeavors they had long abandoned. Others simply feel an internal shift, a growing awareness that they have been living on autopilot. Midlife is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. A chance to rewrite the script, to let go of outdated expectations, and to ask the question that has been waiting all along: who am I, really? Jung believed this process was not about rejecting the past, but integrating it. The first half of life is spent building, creating an identity, mastering skills, forming relationships. The second half is about synthesis, bringing together all the fragmented pieces, making sense of the journey, finding meaning beyond material success. It is not about erasing who we were, but about becoming whole. And to do that, one must face what has been buried, ignored, or denied. And this is where the real challenge begins. Because before you can step into your true self, you must first confront the part of you that has remained in the shadows, the fears, the suppressed desires, the aspects of yourself you were told to hide. This is the shadow, the hidden self that holds the key to your transformation. What happens when you finally stop running from it? That is what we will uncover next. Deep within every individual lies a hidden force, one that has been suppressed, ignored, or even feared. Carl Jung called this force the shadow, the unconscious part of ourselves that contains our repressed emotions, desires, and vulnerabilities. It is the side of us we were taught to hide, the traits deemed unacceptable by family, culture, and society. But ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. Instead, it lingers beneath the surface, subtly influencing our thoughts, behaviors, and relationships. The question is, what happens when we finally turn to face it? For most of our lives, we are conditioned to present only our most polished selves to the world. We adopt personas that align with societal expectations, suppressing anything that might be deemed undesirable. Anger, jealousy, insecurity, ambition, all are carefully tucked away, hidden from view. But the shadow does not remain dormant. It seeps into our daily lives in unexpected ways through irrational fears, sudden bursts of emotion, or destructive habits we struggle to control. The more we deny it, the more power it holds over us. And at midlife, when the cracks in the persona begin to show, the shadow emerges more forcefully than ever. Jung believed that integrating the shadow was essential for true self-realization. This does not mean indulging in our darkest impulses, but rather acknowledging their existence. The moment we stop running from our fears and confront them head-on, they lose their grip. We begin to see that these suppressed aspects are not weaknesses, but sources of strength. Our anger can be transformed into passion. Our jealousy can reveal what we truly value. Our insecurities can become stepping stones to growth. The shadow is not our enemy, it is a gateway to wholeness. But confronting the shadow is not easy. It requires brutal honesty, deep introspection, and a willingness to dismantle long-held illusions. This is why so many resist it, choosing instead to remain within the comfort of their well-crafted identities. However, those who dare to face their hidden self unlock a new level of freedom, one where they are no longer shackled by unconscious fears or societal conditioning. They step into authenticity, embracing all facets of who they are without shame or denial. And this is where transformation truly begins. Because once you have faced your shadow, you are no longer bound by the past. You are no longer a prisoner of repressed emotions or outdated beliefs. You become whole. And this wholeness is what leads to the final stage of Jung's great journey, individuation, the process of becoming who you were always meant to be. But what does this journey look like in practice? That is what we will uncover next. After confronting the shadow, a new path emerges, one that leads to the deepest and most profound transformation. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of integrating all aspects of the self, conscious and unconscious, into a unified whole. It is not about becoming someone new, but about uncovering the person you were always meant to be. The masks fall away, the illusions dissolve, and what remains is authenticity, raw, unfiltered, and deeply aligned with your inner truth. But how does this journey unfold? Individuation begins with self-awareness. The first step is recognizing the roles we have played, the beliefs we have inherited, and the expectations that have shaped us. We begin to separate what is truly ours from what was imposed upon us. This process can be unsettling, realizing that some of the goals we have chased were never really our own. But it is also liberating, because once we see through the illusion, we are free to redefine our lives on our own terms. As we integrate the shadow, we reclaim the parts of ourselves we once rejected. The emotions we suppressed, the desires we ignored, the strengths we overlooked, they all become part of a greater whole, no longer fragmented. We move forward with a sense of wholeness that brings clarity and inner peace. This does not mean life becomes easy or free from struggle, but rather that we approach challenges from a place of inner strength rather than insecurity or fear. With individuation comes transformation in our external world as well. Relationships shift, careers evolve, and priorities realign. Many find themselves drawn to creative expression, deeper spiritual exploration, or new paths that were once unimaginable. This is not an accident, it is the natural result of stepping into one's true self. The life built on falsehoods crumbles, making way for a reality that is authentic and deeply fulfilling. But this transformation requires courage, because true growth often comes with discomfort, and that is the paradox of individuation. In order to become whole, we must first be willing to let go, to release the attachments to old identities, outdated beliefs, and the need for external validation. The process is not always comfortable, but it is necessary, because beyond the discomfort lies freedom, the kind of freedom that comes from living in alignment with who you truly are. But why does transformation feel so uncomfortable? And why is it the key to unlocking a more meaningful life? That is what we will explore next. Transformation is rarely a comfortable process. It demands that we step into the unknown, challenge long-held beliefs, and confront the fears that have kept us trapped. Many people resist change, clinging to what is familiar, even when the familiar no longer serves them. But Carl Jung understood that growth is not about comfort, it is about expansion. And true expansion requires us to dismantle the illusions we have lived by, to strip away the layers of conditioning, and to face life with raw authenticity. One of the greatest obstacles to growth is fear, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of losing control. These fears are rooted in the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society. We convince ourselves that if we maintain the status quo, we will be safe. But this safety is an illusion. In reality, refusing to grow only leads to stagnation, resentment, and an ever-growing disconnect from our true selves. The discomfort of transformation is not a punishment, it is a necessary step toward liberation. The stories of those who have embraced midlife transformation yield a common theme: courage. Whether it is changing careers, leaving toxic relationships, rediscovering lost passions, or simply adopting a new perspective, the process is never easy. But those who take the leap often find that what lies beyond fear is something far greater: freedom. Freedom to be who they truly are, to live according to their own values, and to create a life that is aligned with their inner truth. Growth does not come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from walking through it. Yet, there is a paradox at play. While change is often painful, staying the same can be even more painful. Jung recognized that when we ignore the call to evolve, our unconscious mind finds ways to force transformation upon us. We experience crises, depression, anxiety, or a deep sense of dissatisfaction. These are not signs of failure, but signals from the psyche, urging us to wake up. The more we resist, the stronger these signals become. But the moment we surrender to the process, the struggle transforms into possibility. And this is where the real journey begins, because growth is not just about self-improvement, it is about self-discovery. It is about becoming whole, embracing both light and shadow, and stepping into a life that feels genuinely fulfilling. Even the smallest steps, like reflecting on your values, questioning your beliefs, or making time for what truly matters, can lead to something greater. But how do we ensure that this transformation lasts? How do we continue evolving without falling back into old patterns? That is the final question we must answer. The journey of transformation does not end with self-discovery, it is only the beginning. Once you have confronted your shadow, integrated your past, and embraced your true self, a new chapter unfolds. This chapter is not about perfection, it is about wholeness. It is about taking everything you have learned and using it to create a life that feels truly fulfilling. Carl Jung believed that midlife and beyond were not the decline of existence, but the point at which we finally step into our fullest potential. And the greatest realization of all, the best is yet to come. At this stage, you are no longer bound by outdated beliefs or the expectations of others. You have reclaimed your power, realigned your priorities, and begun to live with intentionality. But this newfound awareness comes with a responsibility, the responsibility to consciously shape your life moving forward. No longer operating on autopilot, you now have the ability to write your own story, to craft a narrative that aligns with who you truly are, rather than who you were told to be. This is why many people in midlife experience a deep desire for reinvention. Some change careers, others pursue creative passions they had long suppressed. Some seek deeper connections in their relationships, while others choose solitude to nurture their inner world. What all of these paths have in common is the pursuit of authenticity. The past no longer defines you, the future is yours to shape. And every experience, both the triumphs and the struggles, has been preparing you for this moment. But the path of self-realization is not one you must walk alone. Seeking support through meaningful relationships, mentorship, therapy, or spiritual practices can provide the guidance and encouragement needed to stay true to your journey. Surround yourself with those who uplift and inspire you, who challenge you to continue evolving. Your growth is not just for you, it ripples outward, influencing everyone around you. In choosing to live authentically, you give others permission to do the same. So here is the final truth: transformation is not about becoming someone new, but about uncovering the person you were always meant to be. You have spent a lifetime gathering wisdom, experiencing challenges, and evolving. Now, You get to decide how to use that wisdom to shape the years ahead. The journey is yours alone, but you don't have to walk it in isolation. The best is yet to come. Are you ready to step into it?